This week in the parish of Bourses and capital markets, the ASX Lesson, unlearned. Euronext Soars, novel tosh, Boujnah DB1 No, and token exuberance. My name is Patrick L. Young. Welcome to the Bourse Business Weekly Digest. It's the Exchange Invest Weekly Podcast, episode 347. Good day, ladies and gentlemen. This is a very brief reduction of highlights amongst the key headlines from the week in market structure. All the analysis of the many events and happenings from the past 7 days can be found in Exchange Invest's daily subscriber newsletter, the unique guide to the Bourse business sent daily to your inbox. More details at exchangeinvest.com. In bit carnage this week, Crypto Mom departs. The long-standing SEC Commissioner-style Crypto Mom, Hester Peirce, is joining the Regent Edu facility, heading towards academia and lecturing law students. She'll be joining the faculty come November. If you enjoyed this excerpt, you may be interested to know you can read Bit Carnage every day in Exchange Invests. Alternatively, if you want to follow Bit Carnage, the daily update on happenings in the world of crypto and digital assets, you can find Bit Carnage as a standalone on Substack. In the mainstream headlines of the parish of Bourses, over the course of a tedious week, ASX went from one departing CEO with a mouthy, unrepentant diatribe to the markets realising the ASX goose is cooked. The stock tanked 25% in a matter of days, taking the valuation back a decade and more, albeit that looks generous given the incapacity of management and board pretty much throughout the course of this century. In the opposite camp, where management has definitely broken out, customer focus continues to pay off for Warsaw Stock Exchange. And meanwhile, National Stock Exchange of India may be filing for an IPO as soon as next month. Thanks for listening to Exchange Invest Weekly. We welcome your feedback. You can contact me directly, patrick@derivativesvision.com, with any comments. Meanwhile, if you enjoyed this show, we would welcome you giving us a thumbs up. Or if you have time, a positive review will always be welcome, wherever you find this podcast. Euronext will be ready if demand for 24/7 trading grows, says Stéphane Boujnah, a pragmatic approach. And at the same time, Boujnah says it's a no to a Deutsche Börse merger, no to DB1. Evidently, why curtail his momentum with Euronext when DB1 is becalmed, befuddled and desperate for a Euro protectionist embrace at all costs? The SEC opted to ask the audience this week in a typical Who Wants to Be a Millionaire fashion when it comes to just how many E-numbers or other elements, token or not, that people want to have as investors in their ETFs. And of course, also we had the exciting spectacle of tokens were all a thing for the development of the stock market. And a week later, suddenly we discovered that actually it was quite the opposite was going to be the case, as it seems the SEC is rethinking its approach to token investment once they've had a few risks pointed out to them. Meanwhile, SEBI in India is looking at IPO pricing mechanisms as the US emulates China in quantum computing development, and there are a wave of mega IPOs coming across the world bourses, particularly in the USA, which can only actually help extend US capital markets domination, Nasdaq being on the verge of listing. SpaceX alone will vault them into the number one biggest money raiser in the world, knocking Hong Kong exchanges off that perch. Therefore, last week's fast track may be this week's delay, as the SEC appears to be starting to holistically think through token trading on stocks. As I mentioned before, some analysis will be welcome to avoid a ham-fisted cornucopia of risk akin to the stablecoin shambles unleashed by the incompetence cum rampant hubris of central banks. Moving beyond our top stories, back in Sydney, ASIC, the Australian regulator, has flagged tougher scrutiny of the ASX's tech upgrade. Unfortunately, the blurb from the blob actually says may in the first sentence of the Bloomberg summary. For non-native speakers, may can generally be translated as won't in Australian blob speak. Intercontinental Exchange announced the results from the 2026 meeting of stockholders, which included the biggest market muppet move of the month. And I say that in a month where the former CEO of the Australian Stock Exchange opened her mouth and basically managed to get the feet of the entire board in there as she was leaving office. Nonetheless, the person who proposed an independent chairman for the Intercontinental Exchange is a numpty. It's times like this when fundamentalist corporate governance vigilantism meets a wall of shareholder resistance that I feel a bit better for shareholders being common sense kinds of investors. Fortunately, there are pragmatic people who actually understand modern capitalism isn't to feed a crony class of bored folks who prefer pontification to delivery of results. In Iran, after 80 days, the Iran stock market in Tehran has reopened under tight controls, but nonetheless, a number of key counters, many firms are still not trading. In results, it was a vastly busy week for results in the parish. All the details are in Exchange Invest Daily, the newsletter no person can afford to be without in capital markets and market structure. For the sake of this podcast, let's look at some edited highlights. Moscow Exchange announcing results, once again quite stunning. Operating income up 23%, net profit up 32%. MOEX back on an excellent track after a couple of less brilliant quarters, despite the prevailing domestic situation in Russia. Sanctions anon et al. Equally, on the other side these days from the Russian Empire, GPW Group, the Warsaw Stock Exchange, demonstrates just why free markets should be free. Sales revenue up 27.5%, EBITDA up 42%, net profit up 38%. Excellent numbers from the Warsaw Stock Exchange as CEO Tomasz Bardziłowski proves the most customer-focused GPW boss in a long time and is earning the results from his diligence. If you fancy some financial insights with moving pictures, check out our live streams Tuesday 5 o'clock London, midday New York time. It's the IPO Video Live Show. Catch the back episodes on LinkedIn and YouTube via IPO-VID. Meanwhile, don't forget, Exchange Invest itself is now 7 days a week. We've got a Sunday supplement to add to our free weekend coverage. You can sign up for the free weekend newsletters at exchangeinvest.com. While you're there, why don't you tick the box and give yourself a 7-day free trial to the water cooler of the Bourse business, the exchange of information, Exchange Invest itself. Sign up at exchangeinvest.com. Coming up in our live streams this week, we're going to be having a rerun on the 2nd of June. It's IPO-VID 209, a new code for market structure with guest Tarana Derayati, the CEO of Vermiculus. That's coming as we're going to be en route to Taipei for the AFM conference. Looking very much forward to a fabulous Taipei conference hosted by Taifex, the Futures Exchange of Taiwan. Our finance book of the week ties in with this weekend's coverage of a great deal to do with high wine prices. Wine and War, the French, the Nazis, and the Battle for France's Greatest Treasure by Donald Kladstrup and Petty Kladstrup is a compelling illustration of a little-known chapter of history, standing as a tribute to the French wine producers who undertook ingenious, daring measures to save their cherished crops and bottles of wine as the Germans closed in and occupied France during the Second World War. Product news this week, the latest in compute futures after CME Group and Silicon Data, alongside Deutsche Börse, also launching their marketplace for trading outsourced storage computing capacity a long time ago. Good grief, that was in Exchange Invest episode 35. ICE, the Intercontinental Exchange, have teamed up with OMN to launch GPU compute futures. The battle is on with this exciting series of products, even if DB1 have somewhat dropped by the wayside over the years. Options trading, great news. Stock options trading is going to be coming to the Pakistan Stock Exchange in the near future, while Polymarket have launched prediction markets on private companies powered by Nasdaq private market data. Meanwhile, many other folks, governments amongst them around the world, have been banning prediction markets willy-nilly. Finally, in product news this week, NCDEX, the National Commodity Derivatives Exchange of India, whose CEO Aaron Rast is going to be a speaker at the AFM conference in Taipei next week. NCDEX have launched India's first weather derivatives contracts based on Mumbai rainfall. Career paths this week, the Texas Stock Exchange have announced a board of directors and their CFO, Jim McGow, becomes the TXSE CFO, and they've put together a credible board of the usual suspects with the obligatory boxes ticked, including a former SEC commissioner. That would be Rick Roberts. Meanwhile, talking of past legislatures, outspoken Liberal icon Barney Frank, who took on Wall Street and won by passing the Dodd-Frank law, has died at the age of 86. R.I.P. the man who, with Senator Dodd, created the act which enforced the Volcker Rule against prop trading and much else besides. Meanwhile, ESMA have published a shortlist of the candidates for the position of chair of the European regulatory body. An interesting duo are lined up to be the successor to Verena Ross. The shortlist is Karen Dortea Abelskov, the Danish regulator, and Carlo Comporti from Italy's Consob. Over in Big World, US life expectancy in 2026 is 79.4 years. The 50 largest airports in the nation are 82 years old, almost 3 years older. Only 3 major commercial airports have been completed during the past half-century. Happy driving season, everyone. The next airport is already at full capacity. And on that mysterious and magnificent note, thank you for listening to this EI Weekly Podcast number 347. Join us daily via exchangeinvest.com, or if you have a new exchange you'd like built, get in touch. My name is Patrick L. Young, and I wish you all a great week in life and markets. This show relates to the business of bourses. It is not to be construed as investment advice, nor are we making any investment recommendations. Please consult an investment advisor before you make any investments, and for goodness sake, do your due diligence and do not make investments without complying with the regulations in your home state. Exchange Invest cannot be held responsible for any investment decisions made as a result of our program, which is for entertainment purposes only. The material herein is copyright Patrick L. Young at the date of publication, while our music and sound effects are sourced from copyright-free sources. Thanks for listening to Exchange Invest Weekly, the exchange of information.